Movsar Evloev versus Aaron Pico being in the works really annoys me for many reasons. One of the reasons is I don't like this matchup in general, and I don't like that Aaron Pico is getting a shot against Movsar Evloev in his UFC debut. The second reason why this annoys me, and this is the main reason why this matchup annoys me so much, is that this matchup being made, Evloev versus Pico, means that Movsar Evloev is not getting the next title shot in the featherweight division against Alexander Volkanovski. And now, this all but means by default, we're getting Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez too, in the main event of UFC Guadalajara, the pay-per-view in Mexico in September. What are we doing? I hate this for so many reasons. This annoys me. Why are we doing Volkanovski versus Rodriguez? Why is Evloev not getting a title shot? Yair Rodriguez is 1-3 in his last 4 fights, I think. He lost his title shot to Alexander Volkanovski. Okay? We all watched it happen. He got destroyed by Volkanovski and TKO'd. It was somewhat competitive on the feet early doors in the fight. He got taken down early in the fight. He was too weak for Volkanovski. And Volkanovski TKO'd him in the 3rd round after a headbutt, which maybe is going to be the narrative that Yair paints as to why he deserves this. Oh, the headbutt, well, now it's time to see what happens if there isn't that headbutt in the 3rd round. But my point is, since that loss to Volkanovski, where he got TKO'd and dealt with quite easily, he has lost to Brian Ortega after a long layoff. He comes back and loses to Brian Ortega. Even after Ortega injured himself in the first seconds of the fight, jumping, and then nearly got finished in round 1, only for Yair to get submitted in round 2. But not only did he lose to Brian Ortega, he then was out for 14 months. Yair Rodriguez was out for 14 months and came back and fought Patricio Pitbull, who was making his UFC debut, won a decision against him that, by the way, other than a moment in the 3rd round, it's not like it was such an amazing performance, such an amazing highlight that we have to give him the title shot. He took Patricio Pitbull, an old man Pitbull, past his prime by far, making his UFC debut. He took him to a decision. That's all he has done in his career since losing to Volkanovski in their title fight years ago. And even in the first place, he got his title shot because they gave him some belt to fight Josh Emmett on the co-main event of Makhachev versus Volkanovski in Australia the first time. They didn't even need to make an interim belt at that point in the UFC featherweight division, but they just did it anyway. They could have just made Yair Rodriguez versus Josh Emmett, but they made it for an interim belt on the same card. And I'm going to be honest as to why. I don't even know what else. We ain't even getting this. Yair Rodriguez, Diego Lopez is one of the biggest matchups that you can make right now in the UFC for that pay-per-view card in Mexico, and we're not getting it. This is one of the biggest beefs right now in the promotion, and we're just passing up on it completely. Movsar Evloev has accepted a 5-round co-main event against Aaron Pico, July, Abu Dhabi, and I'm going to get into my point here in a second. Movsar Evloev's tweeting all about it, but I want to talk about this matchup and why it annoys me. This is DEI. Straight up, this is being inclusive at the cost of, absolute credibility. It's not like Yair Rodriguez is this massive star. This isn't Dana White privilege where, Sean O'Malley gets better treatment than Aljamain Sterling. Sean O'Malley's a big star. He's got a lot of followers. Certain fighters in the UFC, they get this preferential treatment by the UFC, and everyone's angry about it, but you understand, right? You get it. Okay, Makhachev got the shot against Oliveira for the vacant belt, and all right, it's in Abu Dhabi. Well, he's the Khabib guy, this is what they're putting all their value behind. I can be angry about it all I want. Umar getting a title shot after the Sandhagen jump up in the rankings. That's just, he's going to be a big name. He's Umar Nurmagomedov. He's got a ton of following. They're going to put him over instead of Rob Font. I understand those moves. But this is purely being done because Yair Rodriguez is Mexican. And they booked a pay-per-view in Mexico. And they don't have any Mexican champs. And they don't really have any Mexicans in position right now to get a title shot. Brandon Moreno could get a title shot. I just made a rancid noise burping there. But either way, this is just bullshit, like, inclusivity. Like, they need a Mexican championship fighter, so they're just going to give it to a Mexican fighter, even though none of them on the roster have earned it right now. Movsar Evloev is the most deserving contender right now in the featherweight division. No doubt about it. This is supposed to be legacy of Volkanovski. We're supposed to be getting Volkanovski versus Evloev in the co-main event of Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev. That is cinema in Australia, in Perth. That was the move to make. If you don't have any Mexican talent, don't fucking go to Mexico. This is what it's really about. If you don't have no Mexicans with championship belts, no Mexicans in position to get a title shot, because I bet you they were banking on like Grasso beating Natalia Silva so they could put Grasso for the title on this one. I bet you anything that's what they were praying for on that event that just happened when Natalia Silva beat Alexa Grasso. But here's a fact. If you don't have any Mexican talent ready for a title shot or as a champion defending their belt, don't book a pay-per-view and then just go, oh, well, we need one, so just give it to Yair. This is bullshit, man. It's bullshit, and it's only because he's Mexican. And it's only because they have an event in Mexico. And now they need to do this. Stop booking shit before you know what's going on. Building a whole Mexico event, you don't even know what fights you've got yet. But oh well, Yair Rodriguez got a big win over near 40-year-old Patricio Pitbull by decision 14 months after losing to Brian Ortega, which I think was like a year after losing to Alexander Volkanovski. I'm not even kidding here. I feel like his Volkanovski loss was in 2022 or 2023. He's been out for so long, doing nothing in his career. He's 1-2 in his last 3. That much I know. I hate it. I hate this matchmaking. And I hate it for Volk's legacy, man. This is useless legacy. This is bullshit legacy. It's just a massive risk for Volk. He'll probably win. I'm going to pick him to win. I don't think Yair's going to win. But I know that Yair's dangerous. I'm not just, oh, you're coping. You know how scary Yair is. I know Yair Rodriguez is dangerous. But dude, someone shouldn't be given that many opportunities to fluke it, man. Just keep putting him in positions to be some massive upset against someone, when in reality, Volkanovski should be on to the next Evloev. Then if he wins that one, we'll see where Gene Silva's at in the rankings. Maybe a Gene Silva, Lerone Murphy, while you do a Yair Rodriguez versus Diego Lopez. Winners take on each other, and maybe you get a Gene Silva or a Lerone Murphy or any of those names in the meantime to get a title shot after Evloev. But instead, we just get like this slowed momentum of Volkanovski's potential legacy haul. This is a very important time in Volkanovski's career. He defied the odds and came back and won the belt against Diego Lopez. I know people are saying, well, you were picking him to win. But he shouldn't have been able to. It's only because he's so good that he was able to do that. You know, that should be the end. You get knocked out twice in a row. You take a long time off. You're getting up there in age. You've got some injuries. Diego Lopez has got all the momentum. You go back in there after a long time off, after 2 TKO losses against a very good finisher in Diego Lopez. That should have been it for Volk, but he won. Now plan it out appropriately. This is a GOAT of the sport. You shouldn't just be giving Yair Rodriguez a title shot against him because, oh, he's Mexican, by the way. And we have an event in Mexico, so sorry, Evloev, you got to fight Aaron Pico. I can get into why I don't like that matchup as well, but this just pisses me off. We're not getting Yair Rodriguez, Diego Lopez. And I add to this. I made a whole video on my channel. I should have brought it up in the background here. I made a whole video on my channel where Yair Rodriguez was just being pretentious for a title shot after his win against Pitbull and after Diego Lopez lost to Volkanovski. I made a whole video just absolutely tearing Yair Rodriguez to shreds for being so pretentious and privileged and acting so entitled for his title shot and saying Diego Lopez hasn't earned a shot with me, like he's not just barely won his first fight in 3 years. So now the UFC have seen that behavior from Yair Rodriguez and they've rewarded the behavior. That's what you've done. Yair Rodriguez, to every MMA fan with any level of common sense in their head that knows about this sport, just a few months ago, Yair Rodriguez, after his win, was being a delusional, absolutely self-entitled fucking pretentious cunt of a guy in the sport. Every MMA fan would tell you that. And now you've rewarded that behavior by giving him a title shot against Volkanovski. And we don't get Yair Rodriguez versus Diego Lopez. We may also get them at the same press conference again, but come on! We've been waiting for real drama like this in the UFC. And these guys get heated with each other, stand up and start talking back and forth. Meanwhile, little does Volk know that the big pitbull win of Yair Rodriguez is going to get him a title shot against him after he deals with after he deals with Diego Lopez. I don't... Like, how can you have this moment and not think as a promotion, let's give Evloev the title shot and let's do Yair Rodriguez versus Diego Lopez in the meantime? And Gene Silva versus Lerone Murphy. It feels like there are such obvious decisions to make in the matchmaking situation. And don't tell me that someone said no. Evloev's not fighting Pico in July because he said no to a title shot against Volkanovski in September or October in Australia. That's not the reality of this. So don't try that. You know, you never know what's going on really behind the scenes on who's saying yes and who's saying no. I bet you anything Dana White is going to be there saying, oh, you know, when I call Yair Rodriguez, there's not a lot of guys in the sport to do this. But when I call Yair, he picks up and he says yes. I bet you there'll be something like that, where he tries to play this idea that Yair was the one that stepped up. I hate this. Yair is a guy who's got a high chance of an upset because he's unorthodox. But he hasn't got the consistent good MMA fight level to put himself in the positions to where he should deserve a chance to have this upset or be this underdog with his unorthodox techniques. You should have to have the consistency to get there. And even though Evloev doesn't have dynamic finishes, it's not like Yair just head kicked Pitbull through the fucking floor or through the roof of the arena. It's not like Yair just punted Pitbull into the third row with a massive like spinning back kick to the body. He won a decision against him. Oh, Evloev goes to decisions. Well, it's not about finishing potential. It's not about star power. It's purely because Yair Rodriguez is Mexican. Mexican fans of the MMA Guru. I know I've got a massive Mexican fan base. You know this shit's bullshit. This shit's lame. This is actually like some like diversity movement that the UFC is doing. That we need a boom in Mexico. They built the UFC PI in Mexico. They have these events in Mexico as well. They gave Grasso the draw in the rematch against Shevchenko. I know what's going on. They had Yair with this fucking customized belt going around like the 3 champs of Mexico after he beat Josh Emmett with an interim title around his shoulder. And that's the way they were promoting it. 3 champions from Mexico. It's not no Tom Aspinall interim belt. It was some bullshit fucking Make-A-Wish belt that they gave him at featherweight for fighting Josh Emmett so they could promote this whole Mexico thing that they want to do. Then they do the UFC Sphere event. Then they do this, UFC Guadalajara, Mexico. And they've just given Yair Rodriguez a title shot. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Go to the parts of the world where the talent is. You're so desperate to have this boom in Mexico because there is a market there. They are combat sports fans. Mexican people are combat sports fans. They love the boxing. I know why Dana White's doing this. He wants that audience. But forcing it is just a way to get bow-nickeled, where you just have the fans revolt against you because of how you're being treated by the company based on nothing. Yair's not a name. Just Mexican. Oh, we have an event in Mexico. Just book the fucking rematch. It's pointless in Volkanovski's legacy. If he beats Yair Rodriguez again, it'll mean something, but it's going to look so stupid on his resume. Looking back in like 10 years' time, looking at the matches and all of the like resume of Volkanovski and just saying, well, that's weird. He fought Yair twice. Why the fuck would he do that? How did Yair earn that? He beat Pitbull after a 14-month layoff after losing to Brian Ortega, after a year layoff after losing to Alexander Volkanovski. Easily. It's bullshit. Movsar Evloev accepts a co-main event against Aaron Pico. He's been tweeting stuff like, if you're a UFC fighter and believe you're the best in the world, then you have every fight. You have to take every fight they throw at you. No risk and no reward. See you guys in July. It's on. Alex Volkanovski, thank you, champ, for trying to fight me. Volkanovski was saying that he wanted the Evloev fight. That's the fight to make. That's the legacy. That's the big matchup. Evloev is not a big name, but people know he's good. This has 1.5 million views on Twitter. People know he's good. They know he's undefeated. They know he's from that region of the world. That's status. That's legacy. On a resume at the end of your career, if you took on the undefeated, surging Evloev coming up the rankings, it doesn't matter if he hasn't had a highlight reel. People know that's a great name to have on your resume. I told the UFC I'll fight anyone they want, and inshallah, after I win, I cannot be denied anymore. He's taken the fight, and then people are saying here, Yair, 1-3 in his last 4, got crushed by Volk in 2023. Beat a 37-year-old debuting Pitbull. Movsar 9-0 in the UFC, wins over number 2 Diego Lopez, number 6 Arnold Allen, number 9 Sterling, and number 14 Dan Ige. Not getting his title shot because they're in Mexico and they need a main event with a Mexican. Just fucking lousy, man. I was also going to talk about like Roman Dolidze, Anthony Hernandez being made, and Kyler Phillips versus Vinicius Oliveira, which are sick matchups, by the way. I've got Hernandez. I actually don't mind Roman by submission here, you know. This is tough. I don't know why it's in the Apex again, but don't get me started on anything else. I've also got Vinicius Oliveira here as well. But this is a really good matchup. Really, really good matchup in the bantamweight division. Added to UFC 318. I'm just really annoyed by this, man. Yair doesn't deserve this at all. It's not even like he's slightly less deserving than Evloev. He just should not be in any fucking conversation about a title shot. And you know what's more annoying to me? It's the fact that they've booked Evloev and they're floating the idea and in the works, Evloev versus Pico. This is the most annoying part about it, because if I were to tell you Volkanovski Rodriguez 2 is getting made at featherweight for the title shot because they need a main event in Mexico, you would say that's bullshit. But at least we'll get Evloev versus Diego Lopez. Nope. Evloev's fighting Aaron Pico. And this is what annoys me about the UFC doing this with these new debut guys. They've done this so many times. Chandler, it worked out well in terms of the fun fights that he gave the promotion overall. They did this with Asakura as well coming in. They've done this with a few guys now, but Evloev is the newest of the lot that they're doing it with. It makes the UFC look bad. There are matchups at featherweight for Movsar Evloev. Gene Silva, Lerone Murphy, there are matchups to make for Movsar Evloev in the UFC featherweight division. With contenders. Why is Aaron Pico jumping the line? And I know why they do this, by the way. Aaron Pico got an offer from the UFC. I bet you anything this is exactly what it is. Every time with Chandler, Asakura, Pico, all of them that get these opportunities in their debut. I bet you anything this is what it is. Yuri Prohaska from Ryzen as well. I bet you they're making more money outside the UFC. The UFC offers them a shit contract in their debut, which is one that Artem Vatakov turned down, by the way, which is a recent one that they fumbled with. But I bet you they offer him shit money, which is less than they're making outside the UFC. And then the fighter goes, well, I ain't fighting for that. I want some real money. And then the UFC says instead, well, we'll put you in a big fight in your debut. So you're not getting paid a lot in your debut here. We're not giving you like a crazy, we're not matching your money that you are making in another promotion being the big fish, the big name of the smaller promotion. So instead, we'll sweeten the deal by giving you Asakura, a millionaire, by the way, before he even got to the UFC. We'll give you Asakura a title shot in your debut against Pantoja. We'll give you Pico a shot against Evloev, number 4 in the world. We'll give you Chandler. It's not a lot of money, but we'll give you Dan Hooker in the co-main event of McGregor's return against Poirier. Yuri, here's Ozdemir in your debut. You're only fighting 50 for 50. You were maybe making a couple $100K in that other promotion where you're the king. But here's Ozdemir in your debut. It's annoying, man. It's annoying me. Pico could win. He could get the upset. I think Evloev will win. I'm going to lean towards Evloev here. I just haven't seen Pico have that level of success against a certain caliber of competition I'm looking for me to think that it will translate against Evloev. He has got really good wrestling. He was a wrestling prospect of his own, but he ended up missing out on that. He actually trained in Dagestan for a bit as well when he was younger. He's got nasty hands. I don't think he beats Evloev in his UFC debut. And the problem with this as well is, if Evloev beats Pico, I don't know what to think about that. You know? I would love to have seen Aaron Pico versus Dan Ige in his debut, where he just gets in and gets a win or proves that he's actually UFC top 15 level. I don't want to still not know if Pico's got top 15 UFC level talent if Evloev beats him. I need to know where Evloev stands to get hyped about him moving on into a title shot. So I guess we're getting Diego Lopez versus Gene Silva. That's the only prize. There's a word for it. Consolidation prize. Some shit like that. I hate Yair versus Volk too. Hate it. Hate it. Don't go to Mexico if you don't have the talent in Mexico. Simple as that. Before you tell me all these things, they have to be booked crazy time in advance. I don't want to fucking hear it. Dana White had a UFC fight night in July for Australia. Or a UFC fight night in August in Australia. In, I think it was Sydney or something like that. Or if JDM were to beat Bilal Muhammad and they were going to make the Makhachev fight, then they would do the UFC pay-per-view in Perth. So they had a whole pay-per-view dependent on a result of a fight that just happened a couple of weeks ago. So no, I hate when they do this because they're forcing the Mexican market by just promoting their fighters to like unwarranted positions non-stop. It's fucking lame. It's really lame. But there you go. We're actually getting diversity shit in the UFC, and I never thought it'd be this obvious. I really never thought it'd be this obvious. Once a talent emerges in the sport, go to where that talent is emerging from. That's their reward for having talent from that part of the world. If they don't have the talent for it yet, don't fucking Make-A-Wish shit. That fucking, the whole industry of their, because this will be remembered. This is bullshit. I don't know what I'm saying right now, but I'm angry about this. And I can't communicate it in enough ways to express how fucking annoyed I am by this matchup, man. Volk should not have to fight Yair again. And Yair's just a spaz, so he could front kick KO Volk. Even though we know Volk wins 8 out of 10 times. We just have to gamble this shit in the meantime. When it should have been time for Volk to take on the undefeated Dagestani monster. But with the diversity shit, like I understood, okay, they want Makhachev towards the top because of that fan base. You know? And then they've got that, so now they don't need to push Ankalaev as much. And then they've got a guy from this region of the world in Canada, so they just prop them up quite a bit. And then you see it with other stuff as well. But with this, it just feels like it's fucking... It's happening without the talent. See you later. Goodbye. I don't know how long I just ranted on for about that, but... Wasted. All of this interaction. Just wasted, dude. That could have been in Mexico. The absolute aura of that fight, if this were to go down in Mexico after their back and forth. BS, man. See you later. Goodbye.